Hello, so today we're going to be going over playing Academy around Ezreal. So this is going to be a relatively short video, but it is a comp that I really want to stress the importance of knowing and just being able to play around it, which is why I'm going to do this one-off kind of video talking about it. It's also a little bit of a break because I spent a lot of time editing and working on the last couple of videos for the YouTube channel, so this is going to be a nice little refresher, short one. If you like my content, please make sure to like and subscribe. Usually we have guides as well as reactions, and a lot of times I do deep dives into particular comps or traits. Recently hit Grandmaster, so I also have the Grandmaster guide up there on the channel. And additionally, there's membership offers if you're looking for additional stuff and coaching. There's going to be a new membership video today. And then also store if you're interested in any of the art that I sell. So let's talk about this comp. So in the past, when you're thinking about Academy, a lot of times you think about the Academy units, you get a sponsored item from the Academy units, and that sponsored item gives you damage amp as well as HP, and it doubles that on the Academy units. Additionally, aside from the Academy units that you would have, you normally play Sentinels as your front line. Sentinel synergizes really well with the comp, and a lot of times if you can just fit an infinite amount of units on your board will look something like this, where you can play deep into the Sentinel and deep into the Academy trait. So what has changed in recent history? Well, it's not super recent, it's just something that's becoming more and more prevalent, and that is just playing around Ezreal when you're playing Academy. So I know it's going to sound really weird, but a lot of times you don't really care about itemizing or playing around the other units. A lot of times you'll basically have a board that looks like this. You'll make a board that has a 4 Sentinel front line in your mid game and either a 4 Academy back line, but a lot of times you're playing around Ezreal, so you'll have a board that looks something like this in your mid game, and you'll play an Artillerist to support the Ezreal. So the idea is that Ezreal 2 is super stable on one major condition. So this is one condition that needs this to work out, where you're pretty much stable if you have an Ezreal 2, and that is if the sponsored item is a Runans. So with Ezreal, there's a really huge and strong synergy with Runans just giving a good attack speed as well as firing their extra bolt. It scales really well with his current ability, and also dealing the extra damage with the ult is incredibly strong. So when you have a Runans Hurricane, it gives him attack damage, attack speed, which are both super useful. It also gives damage amp if it is the sponsored item through Academy, so you also get the Academy value off of that. And additionally, it's just really powerful. So a lot of times what you end up doing is you build towards 2 Runans on the Ezreal, and your third item is quite flexible. If you're going for more damage, you can go for IE to now make it so that all your ability can crit. But a lot of times people will just put a more attack speed like a red buff, and also have the utility of anti-heal. Or you'll put the utility in the form of a Last Whisper. Now, why is this so stable? Well, in the combination of just Ezreal doing a lot of damage, Ezreal has Rebel active in this board, so he gets the boost of attack speed as well as some base stats. You get good base stats from the Runans itself, and in this case, because it gives damage amp if you're playing into Academy, he also gets a good amount of damage amp from putting the Runans on himself. Additionally, also has a lot of HP and can survive pretty well from getting sniped in the backline, so he's just a really reliable unit. Additionally, with these Runans, he does a lot of damage to other backline units as well as a lot of spread damage, which synergizes really nicely with both Heimer and Corki. Both of these units kind of do little chip away damage where they spread across multiple units. So if you combine that with the Ezreal that is now spreading damage with the Runans, you have 3 units that basically just chip away and delete everybody very easily. It's extremely stable, and a lot of times what you can do is, if you have a Sentinel emblem, for example, I'll just find the Sentinel emblem, 1 second. A lot of times you don't even care that much about playing Academy. A lot of times you will just play 3 Academy units, and then on level 8 or level 9, you can basically just slot in the remaining Sentinel units that you would want to play. I'll just put Singed here with a Loris. You'll have a board that looks very similar to this. A lot of times it's often better to play around, like this on level 8. A lot of times it might look very silly, but a lot of times 6 Sentinel is reliable, and it helps this allow you to tank really hard. It also allows all of these frontline units to be reliable tanks. So when should you play this comp? Pretty much only if there is a Runans as a sponsored item. Now, something that's important to understand with the sponsored items with Academy is that it doesn't necessarily have to be the first sponsored item, and this is a key part of it. Obviously, it helps if it's the first sponsored item, because then you have a Runans that you can put on your unit, but ideally what you're trying to do is just get the damage amp and the HP bonus for the Ezreal. So even if it's a third sponsored item or a second sponsored item, you will still get the damage amp if you put the Runans and you have Academy activated. That is just a thing that exists in the current set. When you're trying to cap out this board, there's many ways to cap it out. Usually 6 Sentinel is the way to go, and that usually requires a Sentinel emblem, and then you can just stack more damage amp by playing around the Jace. The reason this comp is also really good is that it's really hard to miss. A lot of times when you're rolling for a level 8 comp, it's hard to stabilize because you need, you know, Alawi 2-star, you need Heimer 2-star, you might need Corki 2-star if you're itemizing towards these units. But if you're itemizing towards Ezreal, it's very inexpensive and it's very cheap. A lot of times you can even fast 9 off of it, or if you're stuck on level 8 and other people are re-rolling, you can then on level 8 try and hit Ezreal 3, and by hitting Ezreal 3, all of a sudden you're in a good spot and you can just win out for the rest of the game. So basically the idea is that you just want to be stable around this Ezreal 2 for as long as possible. So like I said, this is gonna be a short video, and I was just showing you this like idea of this comp. I want to show it to you in action as well, so a little bit different than some of the other guides I did. I'm gonna go straight into my own VOD to show you exactly what I mean by how stable it is. So this is me skipping ahead into a later part of the set. So if you watch here, I'm basically playing around my opener. I end up seeing Academy units. I have this Ezreal 2 that got upgraded early on in the game. So once I have this Ezreal 2, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can play around this Ezreal. I make my Academy items. I make a bunch of items for my front line here because I know that Ezreal is going to be stable. I don't care about holding on to the tier for a Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger is useless at this point. So what I do is I make as much tank items as possible. And as you can see, I lost the first couple of rounds because I was trying to figure out what I was going to play. And then here, now I have this Ezreal 2 with this double sponsored Academy items, which are the 2 Runans Hurricanes, one of which I made and one which I got from Academy. If you watch, you'll see that every time Ezreal is doing his ult with Artillerist, he's getting the extra Artillerist bonus. I'm basically just deleting everybody. This is the first round that I lose. After this, I'm not going to lose a single round. This guy high rolled, he has Elise, it's fine. He has like good items. But a lot of times if I'm playing through these matches, I'm going to skip a little bit ahead and you're going to see that this Ezreal 2 I basically carry with me until the end of the game. Now, like I said, this is something that's only possible if the Runans is the sponsored item or one of the sponsored items, and you almost always want to put double Runans. Some people put triple Runans if it's sponsored item. I like double Runans IE. In this case, I made IE because I had the components to make Even Shroud, so I just want to slam all my items to be as strong as possible in my mid game. So that's why I slam my items. Protector's Vow is really good on Alawi. That's why I made it. So I have Warmogs, Protector's Vow, and what's it called? Even Shroud that work as triple Alawi items, so that's good for me for later. And as you can see, we're going to be super stable. So I'm going to go towards later in the game, and we're just going to watch. So it's a Prismatic Ender. I take an extra frontline unit just to help support me. I hit Heimer. I'm rolling really aggressively because I am contested by somebody else, so I'm trying to find Alawi 2 as early as possible, as well as find a Corki that I can use to replace the Tristana. You don't need Corki. If you have a Tristana that was stacking from early game, you actually keep the Tristana on the board. Corki just synergizes well in case you high roll a Rumble, and then you can play around the Rumble for your late game. So here, I'm just going to roll super aggressively. As you can see, all my items are pretty much dedicated towards this Ezreal. He's going to be top DPS for the most part. I'm going to start building towards additional items on this Corki. I tried an item augment on my first augment, which is why I have a little bit more items than everybody else, in addition to having the double Runans. So as you can see, pretty simple, pretty easy. This is something you should always be aware of. And as you can see, the Ezreal 2 just completely mogs the rest of the team. He just does so much damage with these double Runans. And if you want to see a little bit further ahead, I'm not going to go through the whole VOD because I'm just trying to make this a little bit of a short video. But I just want to show you a little bit in action of some of these fights. Eventually, I hit Share Your Energy. As you can see, I just full streak the entire rest of the stage. I'm contested, so I can't really go for Ezreal 3. So I'm just trying to bide my time and make it to level 9. Eventually, I get everybody upgraded. And as you can see, from an Ezreal 2 that I had from the beginning of the game, which is something that you can often find, I basically just carry this Ezreal all the way until the absolute end of the game, right? I try and go for Ezreal 3. It doesn't quite work out. Obviously, there's going to be people that outscale me because I didn't hit Ezreal 3. But if you look at this game, I made it all the way to the end of the game with just an Ezreal 2. And that's something you can easily hit in the middle of stage 2 or even stage 3. It's something that you're guaranteed to hit if you roll on level 8 odds or level 7 odds. You're almost always going to hit the Ezreal 2 star to stabilize. And this is just to show you how stable I am for majority of the game. And this is why some people play it. If you're a doubter, if you don't believe in it, I would definitely recommend, if it's academy item, to play around this Ezreal. I'm going to end this game probably second. I obviously get outscaled by some of these guys. This guy has a Mel with a Dominator emblem, and he has a Mordekaiser. If he hits Mordekaiser 2, I'm definitely screwed. So, you know, it is what it is. I beat the clone. It's a top 2 finish, just racing to the end. Oh, sorry, I actually lost to this guy. This guy's a 4 form swapper, I think. Or maybe I go first. Who knows? No, I lose to 4 form swapper. But that's what I mean. It's like I made it all the way to the end game. And it looks really silly, but it is just something to be aware of always. So that's why I just want to make the video here. So like I said before, if you see academy item that is sponsored as Runaan's, you can just play this type of board towards Ezreal and then try it out in your own games, and it should be good. Like I said, I'm taking a little bit of a break today, so not an in-depth guide. I'm going to work on some other guides for tomorrow and the day after. So I just wanted to give you something, a little bit to chew on and try out here. Have fun. Try it out in your games. Should be good. You don't need the Runaan's augment, but there is the Runaan's augment, like the Runaan's Hurricane item augment that also powers up the Runaan's Hurricane. But the main thing is that it has to be a sponsored item a lot of the times. I've tried it without a sponsored item and I wasn't as successful. So make sure it's a sponsored item to mitigate that risk of loss. Try and find an anomaly that works well with your board. Here I got share your energy, so I just made sure to share your energy and give my board as much stats as possible. Eventually you get outscaled, obviously, especially if you don't hit the Ezreal 3. I was contested in this game from somebody else that was buying a bunch of Ezreal, so I didn't end up going for the Ezreal 3. But it's still a top 2 finish against a really strong board, right? This guy was scrap, form swapper, scoreboard scrapper the entire game. So he's literally just outscaled me because of scoreboard scrapper. It's going to be very hard to beat that board. So we just take those. Anyways, make sure to try it out in your games. Have fun and see ya. Bye-bye.